Assalamualaikum. My name is Neha Samani, and I'm your host for today for this session. And welcome to the second in our series of the global sessions IHHN is conducting over the course of the month of Ramadan. Today we're spotlighting youth leadership in action across the U.S. and Canada. Young volunteers are not just supporting Indus Hospital and Health Network; they're building university chapters, leading internship programs, and organizing fundraisers while also creating structured, meaningful impact. We are joined today by our youth leaders across North America who are driving this movement forward. I would like to take a moment to introduce everybody who has joined us today. I'll start off by Batul Siddiqui. She's our youth chapter lead from Seattle. Batul Siddiqui is a 17-year-old a youth chapter lead from Seattle and the point of contact for our remote internship program. A Friends of Indus Hospital volunteer since 2018, she brings years of dedication to the mission with strong interests in healthcare, engineering, and global advocacy. Next, we have Sarah Medina, our youth chapter lead from Washington. Sarah Medina serves as youth chapter lead for Washington. She is a third year global health student on the pre med track at Georgetown University and works as a patient care technician at MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. She also leads Georgetown's South Asian Society, combining academic focus with hands on service. Next, we have Sarim Zia. He is our youth chapter lead from Canada. Sarim Zia is youth chapter lead for Canada, who is also a co-founder of Indus McMaster and founder of Indus Canada University Program. A final year software engineering student at McMaster University, he has been instrumental in scaling Indus chapters nationwide. Along with Sarim, we also have Arij. I would like to mention her. She is the youth chapter lead for Canada as well and works alongside Sarim. She's 21. She is the president of Indus McMaster University chapter and youth chapter lead for Canada. She plays a vital role in expanding and strengthening Indus chapters across the country alongside Sarim. Last, we have Wise Umar. He is our youth chapter lead from New Jersey. Wise Umar is a fourth year medical student at Rutgers New Jersey Medical School. He is also a volunteer for Friends of Indus Hospital through the New Jersey chapter. Hi, guys. How are you all doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Neha?
Doing wonderful. Thank you. So we have a few sessions with you guys planned. We would like to speak to you individually about the work that you're doing for Friends of Indus Hospital. I would like to start with Batul. Um, Before I jump into asking questions, Batul, I would like to also share that she's also leading our remote internship programs. And she's recently embarked on a project for creating something innovative that's the Ambu Bag project. Before we can start off with the questions, I would like to share the video first so we can take a look at the project and then we can understand better exactly what we're talking about.
I'm Batul Siddiqui. Today, I'll be showing you the Auto Ambibag, an automated portable ventilator system designed specifically with the needs of Indus Hospital in mind. It's a low-cost design and can be used in rural areas and when handling natural disasters such as floods and earthquakes. The power switch is conveniently located on the front of the device for the operator to switch off electronically in the event of device failure, at which point the operator can switch to manual respiration. These two knobs control the breaths per minute and inhale to exhale ratio of the device. The PIP alarm sets the threshold of the PIP system. The system will continuously monitor the pressure in the patient's lungs. If pressure exceeds the set threshold, the alarm will sound. The last control configures the tidal volume, the volume of air the device pushes through the automated BBM.
I am Michelle Fatima and I will be explaining the mechanical components of the Auto Ambibag. We have created several of these parts using CAD that have been 3D printed specifically for the Auto Ambibag. One of these parts is the display cover that gives our device a more sleek aesthetic. In addition to that, we have these arms and squeeze pads that are mechanically attached to two gears and are articulated to provide rotational force to squeeze the BVM.
On device startup, the arms home to a pre-calibrated position using a limit switch. The encoder on the motor is then used to precisely move the arms and to control the rate and volume of respiration.
Here you can see how the rotating motor shaft moves the gears, the attached arms, and paddles to apply torque to the BVM.
The power supply produces a 12-volt DC output. It feeds the power management module. The power management module charges the backup battery and seamlessly switches to it in case of a power outage. The battery can operate the device for approximately 2 hours. The power management module independently feeds the motor driver and a buck converter. The buck converter steps down the voltage to 5 volts to power the Arduino microcontroller.
Okay, that was amazing. Also, when I saw this for the first time, I was really amazed and I couldn't really believe it that a group of students could do that. Now, pivoting the conversation back to Batul. Batul, you started your journey with FYHUS as like, you were working with us through the remote internship program first. And eventually you took on the role as our lead point of contact for that program itself. So can you walk us through that progression, and also can you also tell us a bit more about how you ended up at like the point where you could work on something like the Ambu Bag project?
Yeah, absolutely. So, sort of starting with where my journey began, I began as a volunteer, but I've long since been very passionate about the mission of Friends of Indus Hospital because I really see the value in healthcare accessibility as well as that international advocacy portion of the organization. But in specific, this organization is really valuable to me because it's a great connection for me to my Pakistani heritage. I was born in the United States, but I am ethnically Pakistani. And it's been amazing to connect with that kind of community through Friends of Indus Hospital. But I basically began as a very young volunteer, and my journey started as someone who was really helping out a little bit at fundraisers every once in a while. But then I started to ask, what more can I do? And eventually that kind of snowballed into me joining this remote internship program where I could have more impact with Indus Hospital. But I did feel that I was really the only one in my community who had that sort of experience with Friends of Indus Hospital. So I began to take on a little bit more of a leadership role in finding other people within my own network that were interested in joining the remote internship program as well. By doing that, I sort of set myself up in a position to guide them into what I had experienced. And that was really exciting for me. I was very happy to learn that so many people in our community did want to have more of an impact with Indus Hospital. They just didn't know how. So then I sort of became the point of contact for those people, connecting them with our Indus Hospital team, and then helping to organize projects so that they could get more deeply involved with the ways that different skills such as marketing, social media, engineering, and so much more could have an impact with such a large organization such as this.
All right. And how did the idea of developing that Ambu Bag project came up from? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, so the Auto Ambivag project was something I was really excited to work on with my team, but it eventually, this idea actually originated from discussing with Indus Hospital what their needs were. We wanted this internship program to be very impactful, and in order to make something impactful, you need to understand what you're working towards. We were working towards serving Indus Hospital and Health Network in whatever way that we could. And in order to do that, we basically reached out to them and said, hey, what do you need from us? Or what would be helpful from us that's going to have a real impact? Because I didn't want to be giving these really passionate high school and even college level students some essentially busy work that wasn't going to have a real impact. So by reaching out to them, Indus Hospital was able to share that a project of this nature would be very helpful, especially for those rural areas and also during many natural disasters such as floods and earthquakes, because those are unfortunately common occurrence in Pakistan, and we wanted to sort of do our best to mitigate those devastating effects with this project. So after we had the idea for the project, the first thing we did was research. That is where almost every project starts. We looked online. We looked everywhere we could to find projects where we could model our own design off of. The first project we found that was very promising was the MIT event project, and then the second was the MPS BVM project. Those two projects were both distinct and unique, but they each had elements that we wanted to pull from to design our own project, specifically geared towards the needs of the Pakistani communities and also in this hospital and health network. So to this day, we are still working on modifying and improving this project so that it can be field tested in Pakistan and really effectively used to save lives. But it was definitely so much fun to work on to build our first prototype. And I'm really excited to see where it goes next.
All right, that is very interesting, and I hope we can also see similar things in the future from you guys. Okay, now taking the conversation further, you're also very heavily involved and very active with the Seattle chapter. So, can you share a bit more about how did that come about, and how and what is your learning process, and what did you learn? Because I feel being part of a chapter that is actively organizing fundraisers, it's also a very good opportunity for youth and young kids and kids who are especially in high school and college. It's good exposure for them. So just share your experience and what you've learned so far and how people can volunteer or be part of fundraising and chapters more.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, joining the Seattle chapter of Friends of Indus Hospital was actually incredibly natural. My family has been very well immersed in our Pakistani Muslim community, and that really does include Indus Hospital here in the area that I'm based. So when I started my volunteering journey in middle school, it was essentially because I just realized I was old enough to do more than just attend these annual fundraisers. So as simple as that, I just asked, hey, what else can I do? And I became a regular annual volunteer. That sort of became me. That was the beginning of my journey. And from there, I wanted to continue to grow. So I started as a volunteer who would babysit in our little kid zone during the annual fundraiser. But that progressed into me actually being the person who would organize that kid zone, finding those volunteers, setting everything up beforehand, making sure the night runs smoothly. And that was incredibly rewarding. And that also progressed into me giving giving speeches on stage, encouraging donors to donate at those fundraisers. So that's how my journey with the Seattle chapter has grown so far. And I've been blessed to have been a part of that remote internship program and actually was able to share it in the past 2 years at our fundraisers to expand our remote community to larger parts of the Seattle chapter as well, which was really exciting. But overall, I think I've learned so much from every different experience that I've had. As I've grown, I've seen so many different parts of the organization and different ways that people of all ages can contribute. I started when I was so young, and now that I've grown, there are so many more opportunities available to me. And that in and of itself shows just how versatile and flexible this organization is, where even our youth have the opportunity to have such a big impact. Um, but it really taught me mostly about the process of organizing pretty much anything. I've applied the skills that I learned in organizing that kid zone at the fundraisers to organizing fundraisers at my own school, organizing iftar events for my school's MSA, organizing even project teams for school projects. These skills really translate across all platforms. And I also learned a lot about delegating, which is something I have in the past definitely struggled with. I think a lot of people do struggle with the idea of of taking something that you are very passionate about and giving responsibility to other people to kind of take that on. And I think it's a very important skill to learn, and it's important to surround yourself with a team that you trust to be able to delegate with. So that's something I learned as well. And I also learned so much about public speaking. When I first started my journey in this hospital, little middle school me could never imagine being on a platform such as this, sharing my story in this way. And it really taught me how to be bold and how to not be afraid to share my voice with other people, share my story. and that is something that I feel is really important for everyone to be able to do. But most importantly, in my opinion, this organization has really taught me the meaning of generosity. Seeing my community of people showing up for some people that they don't even know in Pakistan, people they may have never even met, showed me just how powerful the act of giving can be, and honestly, how simple it is as well. Generosity takes on so many forms, and anyone can choose to be generous at any point. So that's a lesson that I hope to always carry with me and something that I hope to embody throughout my life.
Thank you for sharing that, Batul. I am a strong believer of experiential learning, and I know and I feel strongly about this because working and being in university, working, taking part in projects, it gives you a lot of exposure. So, what can people gain, like what can youth gain from joining these projects? And that also like leads me into my next question. From your experience, what do you feel and how do you feel about like the youth ambassador program strengthening IHHN's long-term sustainability, and how important do you feel it is for the youth of today, for people our age or people your age more specifically, to join a mission like Indus's mission and to take to take this word and this work forward?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that question because I am very excited to share my perspective on it. So, first of all, let me kind of tackle what you first were addressing, which is what does this remote internship program even offer? And I would say there are no limits to what this program can offer if you're willing to really put in effort and passion into it. For one, this program gives the youth opportunities to explore their own interests. For example, my interests are in healthcare. Specifically, this program has helped me decide that the path I want to take in university is biomedical engineering because of the projects I got to work on. It really helped me narrow down the things that I really love doing and things I want to spend more time doing in university and hopefully in my own career. So it gave me a lot of clarity in that matter. And I have noted that a lot of students who have participated in the internship program have learned so much from the experience as well about themselves and also about their own interests. But it's also, like I was saying earlier, it teaches the idea of giving and the idea of, more importantly, giving without thought of what you get in return. That kind of generosity, it isn't easily cultivated. And I think that in the world that we live in, it's very important to remember that there are so many people who don't have the same opportunities as us, that don't have the same background or like benefits that we often get just from being born into the place we were born or the families we were born into. And it might not always seem like it, but it's not only just our right, but our responsibility to share what we have, share our skills, and the ways that we can give back to the rest of the world. So I think this internship program is a great way to not only teach that, but to help students actually begin that at a younger age, which I feel carries on throughout someone's entire life. And beyond that, it also teaches you things about your own personal interests, such as I've had coding teams where people have joined with an interest in coding and have ended up coming out of the program with knowledge about a coding language or the process of debugging in ways that they had never experienced before. So that's just one example of kind of actual real life things you can learn in the program. But kind of going to your second part of the question, which is talking about how this youth ambassador program is going to be strengthening IHHN's long-term sustainability. I think it absolutely has the potential to inspire people because this program is a way for people not only to experience what they love through Friends of Indus Hospital, but also it shows them the importance of our mission and it gives them a platform to continue their journey on with us, even after their first year. I've had so many people who have reached out to me after the end of our summer cycle saying, hey, I have loved working with Indus Hospital. I think their mission is important. I think what we did this summer was really fun and exciting. Is there something I can do during the school year with you guys as well? So that kind of continued passion, it results in a generation that is going to be taking over for people like Neha, who is running this chat, people who are passionate about spreading Indus's mission. That's going to be our job one day. So this is building that platform for us to continue. And also, I think that it's important to remember that even though we're young right now, we are the people who are going to inherit this world one day. So it's really our responsibility to shape it into the place that we want to live in. Personally, I want to live in a world where people have access to healthcare no matter what. And I want to live in a world where everyone knows how to be generous and has ways to be generous.
That's really inspiring, Batul, and I really hope to see more from you in the future. And I know you have an incremental support for FYH and for IHHN, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what that transpires to. Now, let's move the conversation from Seattle to New Jersey. And Wise, I would like to talk to you now about your long-standing relationship with IHHN and FYH in the past few years.
Hey Neha, it's so great to see you again.
Really good to see you again, too. So, Wise, now I would like to understand where you are now these days in terms of what you're doing for FYH, because I think the last time we spoke about your mission and on what you were doing for FYH, you were helping other people understand the mission better. Can you tell me a bit more about your association with Indus from a very young age, and what are your earliest memories of being involved?
Yeah, of course. That's a great question and a great starting point. So my earliest memories of Indus, honestly, they involve being a kid running around different FOIH events while adults were deep in serious conversation. My parents were actually very involved with the Indus Hospital, and so I was always kind of brought along as like the volunteer labor and slash extra support. And yeah, so I remember these banquet halls that were filled with people that cared very deeply for Pakistan and for this mission of improving access to healthcare. I remember like long car rides where we were trying to pack up all these tables and chairs and kind of organize all of these events. But I also remember hearing words like dignity and scale and accountability and transparency even before I fully processed or understood those words. And I think very importantly at that age, I didn't really understand hospital systems. I didn't really understand global health. But I did see that this was really, really important work that needed to be accomplished. And so Indus wasn't really framed as a charity in my household. It was very much framed as a responsibility, very similar to what Batul said, like this idea that if we have this geographic luck and access to resources that others don't have, then we have also with that a responsibility to help those that don't have that. And so I think looking back, what always impressed me as I got older was that these weren't just one-off events where we gave money and it was like a transfer of capital, but it was really thinking about a long-term vision of how do we build an institution. And I think that thinking is also mirrored in the way that Indus has grown from a clinic to a hospital to now a health system, and as they continue to grow. And so I think that distinction was really important for me growing up as someone who was, in terms of my identities, was American, was Muslim, was Pakistani, but very frankly, for that third identity, never really felt a connection to Pakistan. And so Indus was able to kind of be the way that I formed my American Pakistani identity, where I was able to understand that in everything that I wanted to do, whether that was my career or whether that was my free time, I wanted to figure out a way where I could continue to keep that connection alive. And so that distinction helped me think about my career. I am currently a fourth year medical student at Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. I actually also work in venture capital, where I'm a healthcare investor with Acuity Capital, and we invest in healthcare technologies in order to hope to bring to market some innovative things like this ambu bag. I'm super interested in what you're doing there, Batul. So yeah, I can continue to talk about that, but very briefly, I think that's a high level summary.
And that's amazing to hear. Following up on that and all that you've shared with me right now, at what point did you decide this would be your own journey to be with FYH and with Indus and not just your family's legacy?
That's a really good question. And I think like when we think about identity and we think about the environments in which we're raised, there's always this shift that you have to do consciously, whether that's about larger questions about like your own religious identity or your own community identity and kind of figuring out what you want to do with your career. And and so I think for a long time I had the privilege of just being present in these spaces and through osmosis absorbing the incredible energy and passion of the people doing the work. And I think similar to Batul, that shift started happening when I started asking bigger questions about, well, where do I fit in? What is my responsibility? And this started in undergrad. I started out as a healthcare services researcher, very passionate about access to care. And that was rooted in being a young kid running around and seeing other adults working on problems that were focused on access to care. And then throughout medical school, where I work in a very underserved city, Newark, New Jersey, I began to really understand the structural barriers towards healthcare inequities. Around the same time, I actually had the opportunity to go to Pakistan and visit the Indus Hospital and meet the board of the hospital, and then also we hung out, Neha. And so I think that was also an incredibly transformative experience because you realize that there is nothing that is different from the people that are suffering through these huge inequities. And so it really makes, and then you see people. I remember one of the board members, he was explaining to me how they recruit talent at the Indus Hospital. And this will stick with me for the rest of my life. He was telling me, and he was telling me this in Urdu, so I'm trying to remember. He was like, Beta, like the there's a lot of people that want to work at Indus Hospital. We now, alhamdulillah, we have like this huge brand and it's incredible training and it looks really good on a resume. But what we are recruiting for is attitude. We really want people who care deeply about the mission and are there to serve. And I think that like that this idea of trying to live a life of service, that's when I started really thinking about that really helped me kind of answer your question of like, when is this going to be, when what am I thinking about in terms of, am I just inheriting this like responsibility as a Pakistani American that like, okay, I have to continue this connection to Pakistan, or is this really something that I can build for myself, and really hope to make an impact and a legacy that I leave when I'm gone.
Okay, that's amazing to know, and I second that what you've shared with us that at Indus, a lot of the people, most of the people in there, they're hired specifically for their personalities, and also it's also cultivated into them the compassion, the care, the generosity. So that's something that we're also looking for in all the youth that is also going to join us in the future. Wise, you've seen the transition from your parents to you, and you've seen one generation to another generation. So that leads me to my next question, which is how do you see youth bridging the gap between donor families and new generations? Because they've done their part, now it's our responsibility to do ours. So, what is that bridge, and how can we like fill that gap?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think I'll start by really talking about what is the role of a younger volunteer within this organization. And I think to a certain extent, like there is a reality that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and having extra hands is always helpful. But I do think as this institution grows, there's also this idea that these volunteers are cultural translators. They are people that are helping bridge the gap between one generation to another. And importantly, that is grounded in understanding the language of our parents' generation and then translating that into the expectations of our generation. And I think you see that with political trends. You see that with younger, more progressive candidates that are running in all of these races and are able to really talk about transparency, talk about measurable impact, talk about like our return on investment, like these really important concepts that I think our our generation really responds to, as well as like important issues like access to care and improving the quality and service of care. So I think there's that aspect to it. I think there's also this aspect of like technical literacy, where like technical literacy, data analysis, storytelling, I think is a really big thing that our generation really focuses on. And so I think when we think about philanthropy as a broader topic, we can see this generational shift. This next generation, I think they respond really well to vision and data and tangible outcomes rather than maybe like guilt or obligation or even long-standing tradition. So I really hope, and I see this in the events that I'm involved in, is that the youth are able to translate these metrics into very compelling narratives. And I think a big part of that is the way that Indus shows the work that it's doing. I'm This is another story. When I went to Indus, I had heard this from one of the senior physicians about how there was this time when Indus was receiving a lot of patients with lower extremity wounds, so wounds on their legs. And they were looking, and it was a little strange because it all happened within a short period of time. And so they realized that all of these patients were coming from this one specific area, this one specific village. So they sent out some investigators, and the investigators realized that the wounds were coming from these snakes that were in the tall grass. And these poor farmers that worked in these villages, they didn't have the means to afford the necessary protection like boots and things like that in the long grass as they were going out to do their work. And so the Indus Hospital realized that the the solution wasn't necessarily just treating these patients with quality care free of cost, like the stuff that we hear at these Indus events. They realized that they could just buy the entire village boots, and that completely solved the issue. The incidence of new lower extremity wounds dropped rapidly. So I think it's that type of thinking, that flexibility in approaching people's healthcare, that perspective of trying to do things that are different, that I think a lot of younger people especially can provide. And from a philanthropy perspective, bringing it back to your question, I do think that there's always room for innovation. My current job, where I'm evaluating healthcare companies and deciding whether to deploy capital, there's always new innovative solutions where people are trying to figure out what's the best way to solve this problem. The problems haven't really changed, but our ability to think about those problems, the resources we have all rapidly improved on. So yeah, I think in terms of trying to engage this younger demographic, there is so much amazing work being done, and I'm really excited to continue to be a small part of that.
All right, that's amazing to hear, Wise. Thank you for sharing these insights with us, and I really hope that what you've shared with us will inspire a lot of other young people to join our mission. Now, we've talked to Batul, we've talked to Wise. I would also like to share that IHHN is not just doing a lot of volunteering work, but we're also building and is also working very hard to build its presence in universities. And one such effort has been successful in University of Maryland. We had Ishal visit the IHHN campus from there, and we would like to share a video of her visit to the campus. And she would like to share, like, that video shares what they've been able to do in Maryland for IHHN.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ishal Ahmed, and I'm a student at the University of Maryland College Park in Maryland. And I'm here today visiting Indus Hospital. My Pakistani Student Association back at the university has been working with Indus Hospital the past couple of months to help fundraise for the hospital as a whole, so that we can truly help the patients and the people here serve each other. Now, as a student myself, I have seen firsthand where all of these funds are going and how much happiness and joy they've been bringing into the patients' lives, especially those that are pediatric ones. And I strongly encourage other people, especially those at other schools, to do the same, whether that be starting an initiative or partnering with the hospital themselves. I think that there's truly so many ways to make a difference here, and if I could find a way with my school's Pakistani Student Association, I know that others can too. Thank you.
Okay, this leads us to our conversation with Sarah, as she is heavily involved in leading a chapter for the University of Georgetown. Sarah, hi, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm good. Sarah, I would like to know if, I would like to first know about your experience of building and establishing a chapter at Georgetown University and how so you lead Georgetown's South Asian Society and you combine your academic focus with hands-on service. So I would like to know a bit more about that. How did that come about? How did you start working on that initiative? Where did you get the idea from?
Yeah, so I mean, my experience and my involvement with Indus Hospital is actually relatively recent. I got involved in Indus Hospital after my mom and I went to a fundraiser in Connecticut, and we spoke to some of the leadership and realized that they wanted to start a Boston chapter. And I grew up in Boston, and I now go to school at Georgetown. And so that's how me and my family first got involved in Indus Hospital. This past December, my mom and I visited Pakistan, and we were able to see the Indus Hospital, Karachi. And after seeing the hospital, that's kind of what inspired me to integrate Indus Hospital fundraising and more initiatives into the work that I already do at Georgetown through our South Asian Society. The way that I got involved in that was actually through this philanthropic dance showcase that Georgetown hosts every year. It's called Georgetown Rangila. It's actually the largest student-run philanthropic dance showcase in North America that raises $80,000 plus annually for charities working across South Asia. And so that's how I initially got involved. I was super impressed with that initiative, and always kind of in my family has always kind of been involved in philanthropy, and particularly in giving back to Pakistan, like both Batul and Wise have mentioned. And so because of that, I was immediately impressed with the scale of this and the passion that the South Asian community had at Georgetown. And so I knew that I wanted to take a larger role in it. And so this past year, I've been serving as the president of Georgetown South Asian Society. And one of the gaps in the South Asian Society in previous years has been in inclusion of Pakistani Americans and ensuring that there's enough programming that supports kind of all of the diverse countries of South Asia. And so one of the things that I've been doing is trying to hold more initiatives that are targeted towards Pakistani Americans and ensuring that they all feel like they have a space at Georgetown. And so after visiting Indus Hospital, I'm studying global health at Georgetown, and I'm hoping to go to medical school. And so as part of that, I work at the hospital that's attached to Georgetown. It's called MedStar Georgetown Hospital. I work as kind of like a nursing assistant. And so seeing that hospital environment, working very closely with patients in this hospital, and then going to visit Indus Hospital, Karachi, I saw that the quality of care, the resources were very comparable. The patient care was very comparable, and it's very interesting because this hospital is in a wealthy area of Washington, D.C. and Georgetown. The patients we're serving are vastly different, but the quality of care and the resources and equipment and everything was comparable at Indus Hospital, and it was just absolutely amazing to see. And I think similar to what Wais was saying is that I think what really sits well with our generation is knowing kind of like the metrics and the impact that we're making versus kind of like an obligation to give back. And I think that's what I got out of my visit to Indus Hospital. One of the things that I really enjoyed hearing about that I thought was amazing was how in the chemotherapy sessions for pediatric oncology patients, they not only handle the treatment, but Indus Hospital also kind of looks at that patient's background, like are they getting a proper education, do they have stable housing, and then they then take care of all of that before they send that patient home. And I think that takes care of a lot of the root cause things that would contribute to these patients continuing to have to come back in an acute crisis. And so I really appreciated Indus Hospital's kind of mission to not only provide healthcare and provide a robust healthcare system in a country where there's a severe public health crisis, and also a very not well established health system. I think that not only providing healthcare, but also really establishing this like root cause, and tackling the root cause, I think is so important. And so that's how I became super passionate about Indus's mission, and it aligns really well with my interests in global health and giving back to my Pakistani American heritage. And so I've seen the Pakistani community come together at Georgetown in a couple of ways. I through this dance showcase, I'm actually the choreographer of a Pakistani regional dance. And so that was one of the ways where I saw the entire Pakistani community kind of come together. We also held a conference here at Georgetown, an academic conference on Pakistan and the Pakistani diaspora. And that was also a time where I saw a lot of young, eager Pakistani American volunteers ready to kind of give back to our heritage. And so I saw that. And then after visiting Indus Hospital, I was like, I know that I can already think of so many people who I think would be interested in kind of helping me lead this mission and bringing Indus Hospital's mission to Georgetown. And so I reached out to those people, and we kind of started meeting and thought about like what can we do beyond just fundraising, like what can we do to make an impact. And so we've kind of started with brainstorming things like doing like of course doing crowdfunding and fundraising and things like that, but beyond that, kind of establishing more research collaborations with Georgetown. We've actually had a Georgetown student conduct research at Indus Hospital, so kind of like further establishing that. And then we also are kind of thinking of doing some letter writing campaigns, writing letters to patients and having them sent to Indus Hospital. So those kind of things I think give students a really tangible impact that they're making versus making a one-off donation, which I think makes a huge difference. And so yeah, that's kind of like my journey and how I got involved in Indus, and how I became inspired to start a chapter here at Georgetown.
That's amazing, Sarah. And talking about societies and clubs, and that's a monumental experience one can gain in universities and their colleges and university and their academic journeys. You're leading the South Asian Society, and then that's very fascinating. So, would you tell me what's the most interesting, what's the most fascinating part of being president of the South Asian Society? And do you guys have any specific Eid holidays or any Eid specific events planned? Anything that's not specifically just religious, but that's also cultural?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And actually, honestly, before coming to Georgetown, I didn't have a large Pakistani or South Asian community growing up in my hometown. So it was really only after coming to Georgetown that I was able to kind of fully embrace my identity as a Pakistani American. So I think that organizations like student organizations like this that bring together Pakistani South Asian communities, I think is so important, and that's one of the main things that I've gotten out of being president of the South Asian Society. Some of the things that we do that are more cultural events. We hosted actually just last night. We hosted an iftar dinner, and the iftar we raised money for Indus Hospital, and it was the first time where it was a larger iftar. We invited different faith organizations, and so we had like about 150 people, 150 students come. So it was a great success. We usually also do a Chand Raat event, which is also kind of philanthropy is kind of central to I think it's central to Georgetown's mission. And so it's kind of central to every event that we have. So we always kind of have some kind of philanthropic component. So we do a Chand Raat event night before Eid, and then we do actually like a mock shadi. We do as well at the end of the year. And again, there's like a philanthropic component to that where we kind of choose a charitable partner and encourage students to donate. So I think that while we host a lot of cultural events, philanthropy has kind of always been central to our mission. And I think another thing that I've been thinking with Indus Hospital, that is something that South Asian Society is also been trying to do is kind of elevate more academic conversations about Pakistan, about South Asia. So, for example, like hosting more kind of academic speaker sessions on the public health crisis in Pakistan, on the healthcare system of Pakistan, so that those who are involved in donating to Indus Hospital or in initiatives in Indus Hospital not only are kind of coming to our events and like buying from our bake sale or things like that, or writing a letter to the patient, but they actually understand the public health crisis and the healthcare system behind what makes this necessary, and why these patients are receiving care at Indus Hospital in the first place, which I think is so important to kind of encourage students to become sustainable partners with Indus Hospital. So
All right, thank you, Sarah. I think that's really inspiring for kids who are joining clubs and societies. And being having done my bachelor's and master's sports, I know how important it is for kids and for students to be involved heavily with societies and clubs. So I always recommend joining some organization at university and college level. Now, talking about universities, I would also like to move on to thank you, Sarah, for your time, and I would now like to engage Sarim in the next Q&A conversation session. Sarim, thank you for joining us. You have been our rock in Canada along with your team for a while now. So, starting off with our first question, you've led the Canadian University chapter outreach, and so I would like to know what is the inspiration behind this, and how did this start, and how did you get involved in that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Neha, and in this. So with the Indus University program, I actually wasn't even the one who started it. So I was back in first year. I was in PSA, and I kind of saw what was happening in the community, and we were kind of supporting different charities. But with PSA, there wasn't a specific charity we were kind of focused on, and being a McMaster, being in Ontario, we have such a diverse community. With the MSA, with Islamic Relief, there's so many different clubs at McMaster. I thought there was room for one more, but I didn't know how to get there. And so I found out about somebody who is actually starting Indus at McMaster. And so I ended up applying to join the club as an events director. I got into the club, and I just kind of saw that there wasn't much happening beyond kind of just starting the club. And I felt that we could do more as a club. So I reached out to the president, and from there we were able to start this conversation about, hey, what can we do more to take this further and to expand Indus within McMaster and make it a bigger club. We saw that in our first year that Indus was actually a very popular club within the South Asian community. Why? Because it's South Asian, so people were able to go to cultural events, but they were also able to kind of tie that back into medical. And being at McMaster, medical and health science and all these different education fields are very important. And so having a medical club that was tied back to Pakistan was a huge contribution to McMaster. And so a lot of people wanted to join the club, and we saw over 100 applications to just have associates on our team as a director. And so from there, we kind of did our first year, and then Arij was actually on the team also. She ended up becoming president of the club. And I was able to kind of move on to this different role in this Canada a university outreach program, where I connected with Aleem. And from there, we were able to start to expand to different universities because we saw how successful the McMaster chapter was. And I wanted Reach to kind of speak on the successes of McMaster. But beyond that, we were able to kind of expand from one chapter to 7 chapters. And right now, we're just trying to look for more chapters around Ontario, around Canada, to kind of just make a network of universities that can kind of support each other and help each other out.
All right. Sarah, I'm now following up on all that you've been doing for Canada. Can you share a specific crowdfunding or awareness event that delivered measurable impact?
Absolutely. So back last year, me and Aleem actually used to have these midnight calls because he was in Pakistan, I was in Canada. So usually every week at midnight, we would have these long 1 hour calls just talking about what we could do with the Canadian outreach program. And one of the things he mentioned was a crowdfunding program. And so from this, what we saw was that we would deploy different links for each person, and they would kind of essentially focus on their network. So I would deploy my link to my family, to my friends, and basically ask them, hey, I'm trying to reach this goal. I'm trying to reach $300 for Ramzan, and I need you guys' support. I need you guys' help. And you were kind of able to track that progress. And so we saw that when you deploy these links within your community, within each person's friend groups, networks, we were able to raise a lot of money. So last year, I believe, through our events and through this crowdfunding program, we were able to raise 16,000. And so I kind of just spoke on how important it is to not just tap into the community, but also your community very specifically, right? So within your friend group, within your family, it is really important to kind of reach out to those people because they're willing to contribute. You just have to ask them. And especially sometimes they might not want to donate to a general link. They might want to donate to a specific link that's kind of maybe named after you. It might be SARM's fundraising link. And so we saw that when you got more specific in terms of fundraising within your network circles, you were able to do more. And so that was a really big initiative for us last year.
That's astounding actually, and that's amazing. I would love to see more kids and more university chapters doing that. And now that like you guys have a lot of experience, that leads me to my next question. How are you supporting the establishment of other university chapters? Like, have you been in contact with other people, other kids who have shown interest, and what's the process generally of also, if you can explain very briefly, of establishing a chapter in a university?
So one of the main things we have is word of mouth. And then just kind of speaking on the success of McMaster also, we've had people reaching out to us. So I think majority of the clubs that we have established so far are people that reached out to us based on McMaster's success. And so it was either Reach or we got a DM and that just said, hey, like, I've seen what McMaster is doing. How can I be a part of this? How can I start one at my university? And so from there, the process is very simple. Honestly, the university just needs kind of proof from Indus that you're actually a part of their network and they want you to start a chapter at the university. And from there, it's just kind of a matter of gathering that support at your university, gathering people that want to be a part of that mission. And from there, you're just able to grow. So you start from one person that believes in this mission, you kind of convince 20 other people that they should be a part of this mission, and then it turns into an entire club of people that are able to kind of support this mission. And then beyond that, supporting them, the biggest thing we've done is provide them resources directly within Indus. So having that conversation with Aleem, having that conversation with different members at Indus Canada, they're able to kind of guide those people and kind of explain to them what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. And so I'm kind of able to kind of just make that bridge and bridge that gap with Indus and those kids at universities in Ontario. And then beyond that, also just going off of our experience at McMaster, we're able to kind of do one-on-one sessions with these people. They might not have experience starting clubs, and so we're able to kind of take our experience at McMaster and apply it and answer any questions that they might have with starting a club.
All right, and thank you for sharing that, Tarim. You and Arich work together, right? So, Arich, then my next question is for you. Sorry. What leadership skills have you developed while coordinating with multiple volunteers and, like, to be able to manage so many people together?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of crazy because when Sarum and I started, he kind of mentioned that it was like 5 or 6 of us at events, and it was 5 or 6 of us on the team trying to plan everything together. But alhamdulillah, this year we've grown to 30 people on my team, and we've divided it very differently. So we have people who coordinate the events, and then people who coordinate the outreach, and then the marketing and our social media presence. And I think the biggest thing I've learned is that you have to see who has the passion for what you're working on. So I think our team of 30 people, there's a big group of people that are very passionate about Indus and the cause, and you can tell by how much work they put in. And I think it's also important in a room full of 30 people, we have meetings every week, but it's mostly me just talking at them. So what we've started to do is we have different people each week that'll share and kind of lead the discussion. And I think it's very important to hear out everyone's voices, the students and even the people attending our events, because we have done a bunch of events, and taking feedback from the students that come to these events have helped them make them more successful, and then our fundraisers as well. Yeah.
All right, and being in contact with so many people at the same time, it must also bring a lot of amazing and great ideas on the table for activities. So, can you tell me briefly about what the year looks like for you guys and what activities, what fun activities, what fundraising activities you guys have planned for this year's like future till December?
So far we just had a bazaar for the start of Ramadan, and that was really successful. We had over 12 vendors, most of which were students, and we had almost 200 people come out to the event, and we were able to raise a lot. And coming up, we actually have an iftar collaborating with different different charity clubs at McMaster, including the Citizens Foundation and Islamic Relief. And then we have a Chandrat that we do every year, which is like a girls only event that we have where girls can come in and get their mehndi done. And all of these events are more culture focused, but we do tie it back always to the main cause. And our main goal is to raise awareness within the community. So I know for university students, it is harder to donate big amounts of money at a time, but our biggest goal is to raise awareness about Indus's mission, so that they can use their individual fundraisers that we have set up for them to try and donate money and fundraise money in any ways that they can. So we do have those planned for now, and we're hoping to plan more, inshallah, but that's what we have planned so far.
All right, and this is a question like I'll move back to Sarim, and I would like to ask him about like this how like you have a program and you've spent so much time and energy and like taking it forward. So what are you planning in terms of scaling up the program in universities and also I love watching sporting events. So specifically, do you have any sporting events planned for the year?
Okay. So in terms of scaling it up, the biggest thing we wanted to do was set actual feasible goals, so measurable goals, and that might be on the form of each chapter needs to raise at least $5,000, right? So if we're able to raise $5,000, you kind of are able to add that up with 10 different chapters, and that kind of adds up to a much bigger number. But even beyond raising a certain amount of money, as Rage mentioned, we're not here to just raise money. We're here to raise awareness because a lot of my conversations with Liam, he mentioned that it's not about how much we're able to raise right now as university programs. It's about how many people we're kind of able to spread that mission to, and how many people we're able to convince that, hey, Indus is a very good charity to work with. And so beyond what we're doing with just raising money, we're trying to start this in as many chapters or in as many universities as possible. And so the goal is that at one point, inshallah, that every university in Canada has an Indus club, whether it's as big as McMaster, whether it's as small as just a few people. At least it's in every university where the Pakistani community in every university is able to kind of hear about the mission. And so going on to sporting events, I've always wanted to do a very PSL style cricket tournament at McMaster. So I am graduating, so I probably wouldn't be able to do that within McMaster, but maybe do like an inter in this cricket tournament. I know Liam was mentioning we should do like a paddle tournament. So a lot of just trying to find what's popular in the community and trying to build off that. Last year we were trying to do a volleyball tournament, so that might come back. So we might do a beach volleyball tournament this year. But yeah, just trying to explore what ideas bring people together, because honestly, within the Pakistani community, we're not just trying to target people who actively donate. We're trying to target people that might not know where to donate, what to donate to, what donations even are, because there's a lot of people who just haven't heard of different charities and they don't know the concept of donations and zakat. So our biggest mission is not just to educate people who are actively donating to different charities, but also to target the people who might not donate. So that's why you might see more cultural events that pull in different people. So yeah, our goal is just to target as many people as possible. So with that cultural aspect, we're able to bring in people of all different genres, and yeah.
All right. It's been really inspiring talking to all of you. You've shared quite a lot in terms of what you're doing for your designated clubs and societies, for your own chapters. You're leading your own sections of chapters for FYH Canada and IHHN. So that's a lot of inspiring conversations. I would also like to ask a few fun questions from each one of you. So I would start with Wise. Wise, what is the first thing you reach for at iftar? I know this is very random, but I think after such a lengthy conversation, something like this is necessary.
Yeah, for me it's water. I think I'm just like it's really important to hydrate. So that's my favorite first thing to reach for.
All right. Moving on to Sarim, what's your personal iftar weakness? The one thing you say like just one, but end up having five.
Good question. As funny as it sounds, it's not a food, it's a drink. I'm a very big chai lover. So I need at least, like, even for Sari, I like get up at like 5 a.m. I have chai, and then I sleep like 20 minutes later, which is kind of crazy. But then at iftar, I need another chai, and then I have another like chai before I sleep again. So I need to meet my quota of 3 chais a day. Otherwise, I can't function. So, yeah.
That's highly relatable. I'm a big chai person. Okay, Batul, you're a samosa person or a pakora person?
Oh, samosa. All the way samosas. They are incredible. I will have, if there is a samosa in front of me, it will be gone in the next couple seconds.
That's very core Pakistani. Okay, Sarah, you're an early eat shopper or you leave everything for the last minute?
Leave everything for the last minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arich, when do you start thinking about Eid outfits? The first of Ramadan or the absolutely last day?
I think my mom starts thinking of them for me, and she's been sending me links the past week of different dresses she wants me to see and pick, but I'm very last minute.
Okay. All right. I wish we had more time to keep asking fun questions and get to know each other. But I would like to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for your grace and your generosity, and you have unbelievable compassion to be able to work for FYH and for Indus Development Foundation and for Indus Hospital. You have unbelievable hearts, and we are very grateful to have you guys on board and to call you a part of our team in our future. I would like to, before we close our session for today, I would like to also just briefly mention something that is also part of the youth development program, like all of this, like when where we involve youth. We have a training program that happens here at Indus at the Karachi campus twice a year, one in summer and one in winter. That's our youth training program. That takes place over the course of 8 days. It caters to kids from the ages of 13 to 22, and that's where we invite them. We ask them to come here and experience everything in real time of how we run operations at Indus Hospital, and not just in terms of operations of finance and marketing and HR and how things function, but also to see in real time how people who work here are compassionate and generous and care for other people. So we try to showcase and explain our core pillars through taking the kids who have come here and who will come here in the future, inshallah, through our sessions that we organize with them. We've had two batches so far in 2025. We had a total of 24 students who interned with us over summer and winter, and their experience for us and for them was also phenomenal. So, just before we close this, I would like to show a recap video of one of our batches. So, it gives everybody an idea of exactly what they can look forward to. I think there is a technical issue and we can't play the video, but just to just to finish off this session, people who want to apply, like even for you guys, if you know somebody who would like to come and join us, we can pass on the links, we can share all the material and information with you guys, so you can just give it on to people who might be interested, and we would love to chat with them further and see how they would like to join us in summer and winter this year, inshallah. Okay, thank you guys for today, and inshallah, hopefully, I will see you guys again in the future in Pakistan when you guys visit again. And thank you to all of our viewers for watching.
Thanks so much, Neha.
All right, thank you. Allah
Thank
Hafiz.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.